might be offended in the future has apologized preemptively. Yeah, I think you're right. When a man and a woman on a traditional date go to see a film, and I think this is the majority of people, they want to see traditional values and traditional storylines in movies. And a small minority is always the squeaky wheel that makes people think this is what everyone wants. And that's crap. It's if we want, sure, like you brought up Sigourney Weaver, that was Alien, and that was in the late 70s. And she was a hero, and it was fantastic. What a great movie. But it doesn't mean that now any time a male is in that dominant role in a movie, that it's somehow anti-feminism or misogynistic. We're listening these days because of social media and that everyone has a voice now. We are listening to the small minority make these decisions and speaking for the majority of people and getting it completely wrong.
Yeah, so the tail wagging the dog, Anthony Cumia, his own show, anthonycumia.com. Tell us about your own broadcast/radio that you're doing right now, because I know I've heard it on the radio. Tell us about that, and then tell us what you want to cover when we come back.
It's fantastic. I've never had the freedom. I've been in broadcasting for about 20 years and never had the freedom that I have now on anthonycumia.com to cover controversial topics in real language with real guests that speak openly and without this fear of repercussions that we all have now. We've talked about freedom of speech and the First Amendment's the most important thing. And I'm not even talking about government agencies taking away our freedom of speech. We have the people. It's the guy next door, the person.
Let's talk about that when we come back, because that's one of the topics. That's one of the first topics I wanted to raise with you, is I don't hate Muslims. I'm not some bigot. I get most Muslims aren't radical, but there is a big segment that basically are like Stone Age, crazy barbarians. I mean, mutilating women, murdering Christians. And then we're not supposed to be able to draw pictures of Muhammad or they're going to come kill us. And now the left says we have to ban free speech to accommodate these outsiders. That's the inverse of free speech. So I want to talk about irreverence being at the heart of a free society straight ahead. He's a pretty smart guy. I mean, I enjoy listening to him when I'm on his show or the few times I've heard it on Sirius XM. Because, again, I'm so busy. I don't have time to tune into a lot of entertainment media. I've really tried to direct my crew to do that more, because that's where the real battle for hearts and minds is happening. That's why you turn on the TV and Obama's on almost every show now, or his wife, or Republicans. But that's because their propaganda isn't as effective as it once was. So I believe they're going to use violence that people respond to speech with as an excuse to say, you better not say that, or somebody might get violent. And that's how they've banned a lot of free speech in Europe. Now, I don't like anti-Muslim rallies in Europe, saying kick all the Muslims out. But they shouldn't be banned in France and Germany as they've been. And it's the same thing. I don't like people coming to my country telling me I don't have free speech. Look at Saudi Arabia. You go there and you say a cuss word, or you give somebody a Playboy, or on the other side, give somebody a Bible, you're going to get life in prison, maybe executed. There's never any criticism of that by the left. Anthony, that's another point. The so-called left, and I'm not left-wing or right-wing, but the left seems to be so authoritarian now with all their free speech garbage, and they never complain about China is banning women showing cleavage. So they're going the Saudi Arabian route. But then meanwhile, in America, a man having any success is somehow inherently something evil. It really just seems like it's an anti-man thing, not about empowering women. And then why would the political system want to develop something like that?
Yeah, well, just to add that to the ever-increasing hypocrisies that we see from the left, the progressive left, which is such a joke now to even call them progressive. They are more totalitarian than anything right now. They have really eliminated freedom of speech through fear. We don't worry about an agency coming by and really taking our freedom of speech. That's easy to go and make public and make it look like, hey, they are infringing on our freedom of speech. But when we're doing it just as people, saying, you can't say that because it's offensive, it's racist, it's homophobic, it's misogynistic, that's when people get petrified of that scarlet letter. Which one is it going to be that's slapped on me? Did I say something bad about transgender people? Did I talk about Muslims? Did I say something about blacks in Ferguson or Baltimore? Oh my God, look out. That's the fear everyone has. And it's an absolute infringement on your First Amendment right, when the fear of ruining your reputation, losing your job, your family's maybe in danger because of it. It's happened. And that's what we're looking at. It's the new infringement on our freedom of speech, is this and a bunch of little rats running around called the American public. We're doing the job that Orwell thought that the government would be doing, when in sense we're all just ratting on ourselves now.
Sure, it's like you see these articles every day where the 9-year-old played in the park across the street, so the child's been taken. A neighbor called. What's the law that your kid can't play in a park? Well, they just call it endangerment. You know, what you're doing, I think, is the answer. No matter what somebody's political views are, if more of us that are outspoken, who support free speech, start our own podcast, our own radio shows, then that's the answer to all the control freaks, is to battle them with true Americana culture. Tell folks about the system you've launched.
This is great. It's anthonycumia.com. It's, unlike what we're seeing here on Skype, it's HD video. I mean, we have a lot of guests on the show that not necessarily, I don't necessarily agree with. I had a gun control advocate on the show, and we went off talking about guns and crime and whatnot. But in open and honest forum, something that is very rare these days. And do you think it's a coincidence that right when the technology is available for a lot of people to do their own broadcasts and get things out there, that all of a sudden the government wants to start regulating the internet? You think that's a coincidence?
No, it's not. I mean, notice we're told get ready for imminent terror attacks right when they're trying to reauthorize the Patriot Act.
Exactly.
A long segment's coming up. We break here in a moment. I want to come back and get into where you think the media will be in 10 years. I mean, obviously, nobody has a crystal ball. And then I want to shift into a topic I know you talk a lot about, and that's the police. I mean, the biggest story in the country, month after month, is the police. And so I want to get your take on what you think's behind that and where you think that's going as well. Again, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to The Alex Jones Show, simulcasting on the internet at Infowars.com/show and on stations across the country. So we are radio. That's also television. Check it out, Infowars.com/show, and share that link with friends and family.
We're on the march.
Miss America, call me Caitlin. And listen, I think that Bradley Manning is a hero. Yes, Chelsea Manning now. It's good that he exposed war crimes. It's good he exposed some of the stuff that was going on. But at the same time, we're supposed to then obsess all day over the fact he thinks he's a woman. Here's all I'm saying. Why is the only story I ever seem to hear about anywhere is men becoming women? And I understand it's interesting and people like to talk about it. I'm doing it right now. But China is threatening nuclear war with the U.S. in their official daily Chinese government newspaper. That's up on Infowars.com. They're building islands with artillery to stop the ships coming through. Obama, by executive power, has just opened the border up. With cooked numbers, we've got 0.2% growth levels. We've got just all this craziness going on. And you'd think none of that matters in the world as Obama prepares executive orders to restrict the Second Amendment. That could cause a civil war. And look at this. Miss America, if you're a TV viewer, you can click on it. And it's these photo shoots. And it's some old guy with makeup all over him, dressed up like a woman. I mean, at least get a guy that looks like a woman if you're going to put him and make him look like this. I mean, this is ridiculous. Now it's a creepy old guy like a woman? I mean, it's just force-feeding weirdness. And when I've studied history, these people say, oh, you just are a bigot. No, I personally don't care what somebody does in their own time. It's that I don't like being force-fed constantly this weird one agenda. The obsession. It's got to be for like 5-6 years, because I cover media, with trannies and transvestites just constantly force-feeding it, shoving it down my throat, pun intended. as if it's the only thing in the universe, the only thing in the world. What's behind the agenda? And I know I'm kind of digressing off what I said. We come back with police brutality and that whole crisis and where that's going. But here are the two big twin stories. The police are evil, and the coolest thing to be is a trainee or a transvestite, or to totally have your genitals removed, and taxpayers will pay for it. I mean, is that what we're going to be known as in the future? Is not space exploration, not, you know, inventing a cure for cancer, but how cool it is to dress up in drag or to take hormones and, oh, look, I'm a woman. And then you see the women are acting like men and the men are acting like women. And I mean, I'm kind of just ranting here just because I don't know what to make of it. What do you think's happening here, Anthony?
I see a lot of distractions. I see a lot of distractions being thrown out there. The dumbing down of the American people through the mass media. And this is just a prime example. You brought up some very important subjects that are happening right now. Earlier today, I saw that there was a Russian jet buzzing American ships out at sea, and just nothing. We don't talk about it. We don't hear about it. We want to hear about, the Kardashians and this man-woman I've gotten that sent to me probably 50 times today, that picture, and nothing about what the real important issues are in this country and to the American people. And it is a dumbing down. I think it goes hand in hand with what the subject that we were going to talk about, a virtual police state, localized as of yet in a few of these cities, which I think is kind of a test run. I think in Boston with the Boston bombing at the Marathon, we saw a very successful test run of how the police would be greeted with open arms by the people given the right emergency. And it is dangerous. And again, all they have to do is sprinkle the news, and social media takes off with it, with some Bruce Jenner as a woman, and Kardashians, and Nicki Minaj, and all the rest, Kanye, and we just don't seem to care. We just sit there and accept it and watch the pretty pictures and do nothing about it.
Well, I agree with you, and it's a complex issue on the police. On one hand, George Soros and others want to make all anger at the government be distracted, as you said, into police themselves. We've let the culture get this way. We let the training get this way. We've let society degenerate, so police get fearful. So then they militarize. The feds give them all the weapons, give them the training. Then when there's problems, as Al Sharpton said, they want to federalize the police as if that's going to make it better and standardize it. So it's classic Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution. My point is, we need to reach out to police, take back our communities, change it from within, not with federalization. I really think that some of the people in government do want to have some type of moderate, slow-motion civil war in this country, out of which they can then bring in the real police state.
Yeah, it's more like a chess game than this fast-moving revolution that we see. I think people in power do think 3 or 4 moves ahead and will cause an emergency, make it look very desperate, so that we as the people beg them to come in and help us. The authorities, whether it be the police or the federal government, never come in and say, we're going to take this from you. It wouldn't happen. It's very difficult for them to do that because people have this very limited but somewhat of an understanding of what some of their rights are. So they make a problem, and then you beg them to come in and help you. They're just helping. They're not taking away your rights. They're protecting your freedom and protecting your safety. So you have to be able to look at how many moves ahead they're planning on doing to see what their ultimate goal is. And if you talk like this too much, people say you sound like a nut. You sound like you're paranoid about the government. Sure. But past performance is indeed indicative of future, what we're going to see them doing in the future. It's frightening, and what's more frightening is the lack of awareness that the people have, but they know Bruce Jenner wants to be a woman.
And that's easy for them. And again, my issue is there's no need to be teaching my children about Bruce Jenner and how to become a woman